Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the short film Ramel Carter. If you want to check out the short film, you can click the first link in the description down below. And if you want me to review one of your short films, hit me up on Instagram and we can talk details. Before we get into this video, if you guys are new out here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss any time I upload a new video or I go live. But without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Ramel Carter is a former bodyguard of a scientist whose dying wish was for him to protect and deliver important documents of his. When a mysterious man from his past, Alex Riley, offers a hefty sum for them and is turned away, he enlists in a group of henchmen to abduct Ramel's wife Samantha. Ramel is left with 5 hours to deliver the documents before his wife is killed. With the help of his close friend Elliot, Ramel tracks Riley's location in order to rescue his wife. Now remember guys, this is a short film, so I'm not going to be judging it at that crazy scale that I judge million-dollar blockbuster movies, so it may take everything that I say with a grain of salt. So I want to start off with the good of Ramel Carter. Probably one of my favorite things about this short film is the acting. The main character, Ramel Carter, his acting is phenomenal, especially for someone at a short film level. I would definitely want to see him on another level, try to go to a higher, bigger budget thing, because the actor has a lot of versatility, and honestly, I think he's pretty underrated within this movie because there's so many good performances. I would only say there's 2 or 3 acting performances that really stuck out as like not the best compared to the other ones, but the guy who plays Ramel Carter, his acting as well as his action choreography is really good. It's really rare nowadays to have people that can do 2 of one thing. People can usually either act or they can do hand-to-hand combat or like fighting style technique, stuff like that. A lot of people can't do both, but the actor who plays Ramel Carter can do both, and that's what I really enjoyed about this movie. The combat was simple enough but still intriguing enough to where the actor himself could do it, and that's what I really thought elevated this movie, because it went from heavy dialogue scenes to great action sequences really quickly, and you can see there's no big cuts, so you can definitely tell that you're in the moment. It feels like you're integrated into this movie, and that's what I really like. The next good thing is definitely the writing. Usually short films have really cheesy or bad writing, but this one was actually pretty good, though at times it did feel like the pacing was stretched thin, which I'll mention later in this video. I definitely felt like the writing overall was pretty good. There's not much I can say about the writing, but there are specific moments where you definitely feel like the writing really comes into play. A lot of times when within action short films, it's just action, but this one had action and then a good chunk of good dialogue that was actually meaningful, and you can actually tell the meaning behind it because of the way this movie played out when it comes to different scenes in different orders. The writing in this movie really elevated it to another level, especially since this is an action short film. Again, I would expect it to be action, crazy choreography, which it did have, but the writing moments were also phenomenal, and I think that's something that's going to be really overlooked within this short film just because of how much great action there is. Now the next thing, which is another smaller thing that not many short films do a good variety of, is sets. Again, this one didn't necessarily have a wide variety. From what I could tell, it was shot in a few office spaces, mostly in someone's house. There were a good variety of shots, and there were some car scenes. It never felt like they were repeating the same places over and over like a lot of short films do, which that's fine if you can disguise one set to look like another. That's fine with me, and they might have done that multiple times within this movie. I just didn't notice, and that's the best part. It felt like they were going around to a lot of different places. Maybe it's because they had 2 to 3 different car scenes in different situations and different settings, so it looked completely brand new and fresh. There were 2 separate office sets, and then there was 2 separate house sets. There was so much difference within the sets themselves that this movie felt as if it was at a bigger scale than it actually was, and that's kind of what I liked about it. Now moving on to the action, like I mentioned before, this is an action short film, and I'm not going to say it had some crazy Hollywood level choreography, but it had some damn good choreography. Honestly, from many short films, you wouldn't expect some crazy choreography, but this movie really pulled it off in my opinion. I think that this film really put emphasis on the action. I think it was number one because of the camera work, the way they panned the camera, cut shots, it really felt like it was true grounded action. This movie's action and editing plays hand in hand. It's not cut back and forth to kind of make the viewer feel like they can't feel anything, but you can actually, it's all like one big shot. It feels like you can actually feel the impact of punches. It's not cut from one punch to a kick to another punch in the face. It's all one take, and it looks really good. Like I said before, this is an action short film. Obviously, action short films can't always have the highest budget. They're not going to be like jumping out of planes and helicopters and stuff, but they were done really well and the choreography was done really well. And that's something I really appreciate. There's a fight scene near the end of the movie. It's not necessarily like the final battle, but there's a few scenes before the final battle. It's about 18 minutes in, and it's probably one of the best fights I've seen in a short film. I love it a lot. It was probably my favorite part of the movie itself, was that action sequence. You guys will see when you watch it. Remember, it's about 18 minutes in. It was pretty great, and at that point, the movie really shot up for me because it was like, okay, they're kind of securing this pacing of this great action and then this great dialogue, like I mentioned before. They were going back and forth between two great types of things, and so I think that's why I really enjoyed it. The next good thing was definitely the VFX and the editing. Obviously, I'm not going to nitpick a short film, and the sound design, I'm going to be honest, wasn't the best, but I'll talk about that later. But the blood and the gunshots that we only had like 4 or 5, but they were still really well done. That kind of plays more into action VFX. They're really well done in my opinion. There were a few shots where it wasn't the best, but again, this isn't some Hollywood level thing. They're not getting to use a massive budget on editing. Also, there was a pretty crazy twist towards the end of the movie, which I really did love. It really made this movie hit for me. I'm not going to specify, but it is almost at the very end of this movie. But when you guys see it, I think you'll really enjoy it. But I want to move over to the bad of this movie. Now, like I mentioned before, there was some bad acting in this movie. I think it was just more of the character choice that the actor was going for. There was one actor that had a weird accent and it didn't really match with the rest of the tone of the movie. And there was some stuff where like the actors kind of played off other actors pretty weird. There was just small stuff here and there. Obviously, it's a little bit of a nitpick, but I do want to bring it up since I was praising the acting so much in the beginning. The next bad thing was definitely the sound quality. Now, I understand, obviously, short films, they don't have the best budget. You can't go out and buy a camera, mic, lights, and everything. The sound design itself wasn't bad. Gunshots, punches, whip effects, all that kind of stuff was phenomenal. But the sound editing itself within like the quality of the voices that you can hear, it wasn't consistent whenever they changed perspectives on the camera. It wasn't consistent in different environments. It wasn't consistent just overall. It felt like throughout every single setting, it sounded very different. So the next thing that was kind of bad to me was the premise. And honestly, it wasn't even that bad as much as it was just basic. They kind of dumbed down the premise about halfway through the movie for us. In the beginning, it was really well thought out, and it really made us think like, okay, like we don't know these characters just yet, but as time goes on, we'll probably learn about them. And we did learn about them, but about halfway through the movie, they had this really dumbed down explanation, which I didn't necessarily like, but at the same time, it kind of made sense because the short film's only 28 minutes long, so they don't necessarily have time to explain all of it. So it makes sense as to why they did it. I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. There's also like 2 to 3 cool twists here and there, and I really liked the twists. It just felt like they were kind of cheesy, and a lot of them you could tell when they were coming. I didn't necessarily know exactly what the twist was. I like that there are twists. A lot of short films are kind of one basic storyline going throughout. This one had a lot of twists and turns, just some of them were fairly basic. The next bad thing, and not necessarily bad, it was just a lot worse than all the other crazy good things that I mentioned, was the pacing. I didn't always feel engaged in this movie. I think that was one of the biggest issues with it. There were a lot of times where there was such important dialogue, I just didn't feel like I was like into it. It kind of just felt boring to hear, honestly. Overall, I think the pacing just didn't work because of certain places where they put important information. So the final bad thing about this movie, in my opinion, was the story ending. Honestly, it just felt anticlimactic. The story ended and then there's a twist after that. The twist is absolutely phenomenal, I'm gonna be honest, but the story ending itself was fairly fast paced and it didn't really work for me. There was just so much tension going on and it ended in literally the blink of an eye. So I just felt like there was so much going for it and it just ended so quick and the climax just went down. But it kind of makes sense because there's a massive twist at the end. But overall, I just felt like they were building up to that one moment and it all ended. Obviously, like I said before, there's a twist after that, but just in the moment, it didn't feel right for the story to feel like it ended right there. But my final take for this movie is that honestly, this short film really surprised me. There aren't many times in which a short film can really impact with action, but this one really does it. Though at times it can be boring and it feels like it drags on, the ending, it does make your time worth it. I'm definitely hoping for a second part sometime soon because I think this story and these characters have a lot more potential. I'm not going to give this short film any sort of rating because I don't think that short films need ratings. I think short films are just for filmmakers to learn, and I really hope that these filmmakers learn from this movie and make an even better one next time. Again, if you want to check out the short film Ramel Carter, you can click the first link in the description down below. But yeah guys, that's it for this video. If you're new in here and you haven't already hit that that subscribe button. Make sure to do so you don't miss any time I upload a new video or I go live. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.